This is a fundamentals introduction to the Passport Business Solutions version 12.05. It's also accurate for previous versions of 12, the graphical user interface that has been introduced and is continuing to be introduced by Passport. This is the opening screen when you first go into the program, log in. If you use more than one company, it will prompt you for a company number. If not, it will not ask you for that. In this case, I'm using demo software that has more than one company set up, so I have to put in a company number, put in my initials, put in my password. On this screen, you can also put in a new password. You can reset your own password for Passport right here. The requirements are pretty straightforward. You either have to use mixed upper and lower case alphabetic or mixed alphabetic and numeric. There isn't any real stringent requirements. It can be from 6 to 10 characters long, no more, no less. But for now, we're going to log in, and this is the screen that you will see. Most people use this menu, which is called the menu bar, and it will it has all of the modules across the top. There's another menu that is available called the tree view that has the same selections down vertically, but apart from that, there's very little difference. It's just a visual difference in what the menus look like. Most people who have been using the program for a long time are used to this menu, and that's what most people use. When you look at the menu, you have entries with the 3 dots after them, and that means there's a submenu. Your privileges are assigned by an administrator, and you may not see all of these entries up at the top. You may not have all of those, and you probably do not. So don't let that fool you. Don't let it upset you. You see the programs that you should see that your administrator sets up for you. There is under each of these submenus, there are no other menus. The Passport menu system is only 2 levels deep. You'll never see more than one menu, one submenu to each of these entries. You can use the arrow key to move back and forth. You can also click the menu to make the cursor move back and forth, depending on if you're right or left of the current position. Okay, we're going to enter one screen, and I'm going to use the customer screen as an example of some of the new features of the program. When you go into this screen, you'll have a search box up the top with 6 lines in it. No matter how big your database is, there will only be 6 lines here that you can look at any one time, but it's easy to search, and I'll show you that in a minute. The one thing you should notice is that on each of these screens there will be some fields that have a blue label, and that means that's a required field. So customer number is a required field, and customer name. In sales setup, you have AR account, balance method, statement cycle, tax code, and terms code. Those are all required. So when you make a new entry, the blue fields have to have an entry next to them. You'll also notice on these screens that there are tabs. In the old style character-based program, when you went into enter a customer, you would make an entry. At the bottom of the first screen, it would say enter field number to change, or you press enter to go to the next screen. In the graphical user interface, it does not do that. You have tabs that show the same content, but it's easier to maneuver, to manipulate and move back and forth between the tabs without losing your place, or without going all the way through. You miss making an entry in one screen and you have to cycle back through to make the entry again to catch what you missed if you go past the screen you wanted to go into. That's no longer necessary. Now you can just go back and forth with the tabs, and when you're on a screen that you want to edit, go up and click edit, or if you notice, the edit button is a little bit darker, and that means that's the default. So if I'm on the item, the record that I want to edit, I just hit enter. I go into edit mode. It's that easy. Just point to it, hit enter, and you're there. Then you can click around to the other fields in the screen. Any white field can be filled in. The gray fields cannot be changed. So that the customer number, for instance, once it's grayed out, once you've made that entry, that's permanent. If I want to enter a new record, which I'm going to do right now, and I enter Acme Industries, and really on this screen I can hit enter, or I can tab and go to the next field. Shift tab goes back, but I can just click the tab at the top and go to the next screen. I don't have to enter through every field on that screen. So I have to put in a statement cycle, and I can put in any of these fields that are checkoffs. These are just yes/no questions. Terms code, I can hit either F8 to search, or I can hit the binoculars button and pick what I want. It's the same thing. And then go to tax code and pick out the tax code that is appropriate for this customer, and then click save. And no, I don't want to enter notes right now. We will address notes in a later tutorial. But for right now, that's all we need to do to enter a new customer. So that is there. Now I want you to look at the top of the column here, and you have 4 columns that have a red label. And that means you can search on those columns. So I can put in customer number. You can do ascending or descending. I can do customer name, and again, clicking the arrow next to the name resorts it from top to bottom. Same thing with zip code and sales rep. So if I want to look for customer 2000, I type in 200, and it automatically goes to 200. Type in the last 0, and I'm on Acme Industries. Hit enter or click edit, and I'm editing. Very quick and easy to search. Same thing with customer name. If I start typing AR, then it goes to Ariel. If I go back to A only, it stops at Acme Industries. The longer you type, the farther you type, the more it automatically searches down through the database. Now at the top of the screen, you have buttons that, depending on what you're doing, will be available or not. Right now, I can go in and enter a new record, or I can edit the existing record, or I can delete, or I can exit. If I just hit escape, I exit. If I click new, then what we saw a few minutes ago will happen. I can go in and enter a new customer. The one thing that you should really pay attention to, because it is a terrific time saver, is the underlined letters here. So if I hit Alt-N, I am going in to enter a new customer immediately. So you don't have to touch the mouse to go up and click new. You can use Alt-N. The same thing with Alt-S and save new. If you're entering one record after another, one order after another, one accounts payable voucher, new customers, then when you save, if you do save new, it will automatically chain to a new blank record, and it will automatically let you continue to type in record after record after record. If you just click save, then it saves it, and you go back to this screen right here. So the Alt-E will edit the record that you're on, that the highlight is on. If I make a change there, for instance here, if I put in and hit Alt-S, then it saves it. Again, I don't have to touch the mouse. At the bottom of the screen, you have F1, which will go to the next record. Shift F1 goes to the previous. That's pretty much the way it works now, except you're going from record to record on the list instead of record to record on the full screen. You can also hit F3 to delete, which is the same as hitting delete up here. Shift F5 is for only if you have credit card facilities set up, which most people do not. F6 lets you enter a note for this customer. F7 brings up the contact screen. And those things you should always watch at the bottom of the screen for prompts that will help you speed your entry. Order entry, of course, has a different set of prompts. Accounts payable has a different set of prompts. Inventory control. So there are similarities, but everyone is customized to the specific program that you're working on. You also have a menu at the top, File, View, Print, Options, and Tools. The File menu pretty much gives you the same set of entries that are available in the buttons, so it's not as useful. View lets you sort by clicking this button instead of by going to the column. I don't see that that's a big advantage. Print, you can print some reports from this screen. Options is really handy, and that's something you need to look at in everything that you use. Look at the options button, because if you are in, for instance, customers, and you want to look at this customer's open items, and I'm on customer 200, then I click that, and I'm looking at his open items. So you don't have to exit the customer screen to look at anything like that. You have a wide variety of file drill down. This is called the navigator. And you can navigate through and look at a lot of this stuff without ever leaving the screen that you're on. Click exit or hit escape and you go back to the customer file. That's true, and it varies with the program you're in. That's customized and that is specific to the program that you're using. Again, you can enter customer contacts or customer notes, which is the same as hitting F6 or F7. Tools, you have a calendar, which I will show you in a second. F8 is the find. It's the same as the lookup screen. You can Control P or click print screen, and it will print the screen that you're looking at right here. You have a calculator, which is a Windows function, standard in all versions of Windows. And when you use the calculator to come up with a number, you can copy and paste that number into a screen on in Passport, the screen that you're looking at. Notepad is the Notepad program, which is also a standard part of all versions of Windows. And that, I think, is, and also you can launch the web browser. Then there's a help screen, and that is really dependent on where you are in the program. Okay, the calendar. Let me give you an example of the calendar. Let's try this. If I edit this entry, right down here under distribution date, I have this little icon that is the calendar icon. I can click that and pick any date off the calendar. I can click it and go forward. I can go forward by years. I can go to a whole different year. Anything that's valid in the program, you can find in the calendar. It's very useful. I'm going to exit that. And really, except for the buttons at the top of the screen, which again are similar to what you already know, I'll go through these quickly. You have the escape key or the exit key, which you should always use to exit the program. Do not close the window. Do not hit Control-Alt-Delete and use Task Manager to kill a Passport session. Go up here and click Exit twice, or hit Escape twice to exit the program. This is the forward key. That's the same as F1. Back, same as Shift F1. That's the delete key. This is the lookup key, the same as hitting F8. This is breakout, which I'm not going to address in this tutorial. This copies content to the clipboard under Windows. This pastes content from the clipboard to the field you're in under Windows. We will address that in a different tutorial. This is your print screen button again, and email, generate an email if it is set up in the program, and it should be. This is the calculator. That's Notepad. This is a documentation web browser. When you click that, you will go to a central site with Passport documentation, and you can look up anything. There are manuals containing thousands of pages of information about this program. And the last two things are for a program called Query Builder, which you may or may not have. These two buttons are dedicated to using Query Builder. And that is really all, except for the this always tells you what your printer is, your default printer. And that's it for the introduction. And we'll be expanding on many of these things in later tutorials. Thank you.